recording. I'm going to share. Then before we get started, I'm going to do our meeting introduction. So welcome everyone to the May 2024 Design Review Committee meeting. I'm going to call the roll to confirm that our DRC members are present. Omari Davis is not here yet. Robert Dudka and Alex Foster are both excused, and Drew Wenchel.
Here.
All right, DRC meetings are held in person and streamed simultaneously to allow commissioners, applicants, and the public to attend online. For members of the board and applicants joining us this evening, if board members or applicants lose internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us via the dial-in phone option. Applicants, please keep your devices muted and your video turned off until your item is under review. When called upon to speak, you must unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that is located on your meeting command bar. The command bar will appear if you move your cursor down toward the bottom of your screen. We do not have the ability to unmute you. If you are dialing in by phone, press *6 to unmute. The meeting chat is active for participants who need technical assistance and should not be used for questions. The public may observe the meetings, but participation in the discussion is limited to applicants and members of the HALRB during this meeting. Public comment is welcome at the HALRB meeting. Information about signing up as a speaker or submitting a public comment for that meeting is available on the HALRB website. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. Okay, so with that, we will start with our first agenda item, which is at Reeves-Lind, and we have Lyndall Kaur here, who is representing the Department of Parks and Recreation. So I'll give a brief overview, and then Lyndall, if you'd like to jump in and just offer any thoughts or explanation for the project, you're welcome to do so. So Reeves-Lind is the historic farmland that's come forward. I know, Andy, you're very familiar with Reeves-Lind by now. Hey, Omari. But there have been a couple of instances lately of some security issues at Reeves-Lind. So in partnership with DPR, our staff, Lauren and I, spoke with Lyndall, and we requested that they take some additional security measures at the property. And we came to the conclusion that temporarily installing these solar-powered security lights in the eaves of the building would be the best solution. So you can see where they've been installed just right up top here, and I'll scroll through. But given the importance of security at the property, we felt that it was appropriate to get them installed as quickly as possible. So this would be retroactive in its review. And this is what it looks like today. But Lyndall, if there's anything you'd like to add to what I've described, please feel free to do so. Lyndall, if you're talking, you're muted. Okay. Do our DRC commissioners have any questions about the project?
Yes, to what extent was this coordinated with the Habitat for Humanity?
They were aware. Mm-hmm. They were aware of the installation as far as I know, and they were also aware of the security issues at the property too.
There's one light at the rear. What about the front?
Yep, so they're on each elevation. So that's the driveway side. So there's one there, and then there's one. So there's one there, one there, one there, and one there. Yeah. So there's 4 total.
Well, okay, how soon is the Habitat for Humanity going to get started, and what have they got planned, if anything, for the security, or is this what they're gonna be faced with. How we can, I mean, I'm not sure that this, you don't have a picture of the light, solar light in the front, but
It's designed to be more of a temporary measure
Yeah,
until the property is conveyed to habitat. We're anticipating that will be in June.
because I can see where there might be a need for security lighting. If the building is essentially vacant. But,
And that's.
I'm
that's part
really
of the-
concerned about whether this is going to be what we're going to end up with, because it's not certainly what we
I don't think
anticipate.
that's guaranteed.
no, and this DPR has had success with installing similar lights at other locations, other county properties, to help with security issues. And so we saw this as the best and least intrusive mechanism to install at the house and on the property. So it is intended to be temporary, and then once Habitat has it, they will be the ones who are stewarding the building and its security measures. So that's more of a question for them.
Having worked on this house a number of years ago, county first got it. However, I'm really there have been other problems that county parks is basically ignored. To pick up on the security and hazardous conditions on the milkshake.
That's a
We've
different
been
issue.
after them for years. So I really wonder. We asked for something. They basically ignore that. I think that there ought to be some sort of they did coordinate with you before they did this.
Yes, DPR did. Yep. Mhm.
And
Well,
habitat.
that's at least something.
And I think to your concern that the milk shed has been a longstanding, outstanding issue. And I think once we get through this phase of the conveyance of the property, there could be another opportunity to revisit that. And I think now it's a concern to make sure the site is as protected as it can be between now and the actual conveyance. So the security light, that.
Was there actually any incidents of vandalism?
Yes.
What did they do? You know?
So there were some broken windows, and security had to go into the building to make sure that there weren't what damages or if there were any people in the building. And as far as we're aware, nothing like that was found inside. But there were 2 instances recently of I think late night vandalism to that effect. So. And I believe too, DPR has increased their control of that area with their security too. So there are other measures, and we explored other things like fencing and things like that. But in DPR's experience, fencing isn't as much of a deterrent as you would think it is. So so we felt that this was the most appropriate. And then the fascia board is going to be replaced anyways as part of the COA that you all approved. So the installation of it there isn't really affecting it too much. Yeah, but we can definitely bring up the questions of concern with the Habitat team, Andy. It's a valid point. But do either of you have an issue with what is presented here, or could this go on the consent agenda?
I came a little bit late too. It's only solar.
Yeah.
But one on each elevation.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no wire.
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure that certainly long term that this is an appropriate security measure.
Okay.
And I think that the applicant will review that. I would not like to see this accomplished fact that then carries on to when the building is rehabilitated and occupied. I'm not sure that this is the best security item.
Address that when the time comes. Part of the habitats.
Yeah. And I think too, given that the property is vacant right now, once it's occupied, I think that there's going to be theoretically a lot less security risks and issues with the property. So,
Been vacant a long time.
yeah. And a lot of people in the neighborhood that's vacant and people who have been in that park and in that area. So, so what agenda could this go on? Are you comfortable with it going on consent?
I am.
I think so.
Okay, all right, perfect. All right, so Lyndall, the item went on the consent agenda, which I will send a summary tomorrow, but essentially that means the item will be voted on en bloc at the beginning of the HALRB meeting, and that's happening on May 15th. So I'll follow up with you with an email with more details, but thank you so much for coming to the meeting tonight. Okay, all right. We'll move on to our second agenda item. Pete, if you'd like to join us at the table.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Officially, hello, everyone.
Please feel free to introduce yourself.
I'm Pete Faharan. I'm one of the owners at Pike Cornerstone, which is replaced Rebellion on the Pike across from the Arlington Draft House. So my wife and I and two other business partners purchased this right when they decided to get going. And that's about it. I mean, we've been open since 2 weeks. Business is picking up, and according to a lot of customers, they would know it's open if that was up on the wall. So.
So this is one of our Columbia Pike form-based code projects, and it's essentially the installation of an acrylic sign. So this is the logo. So this is what the sign will look like, and it's going in a pre-existing sign box. So it's going to look exactly like that. And this building has had, so that's it without. So it's already got electric and power and all of that. So really it's just the insertion of the acrylic piece going into the box. That's correct, right?
Yes, that's already purchased and waiting.
And then the first image was the actual color, so it's like white and gray essentially. That's
Since that's gradient, that's not going to be it, but it's great.
but it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. That has the gradient shading for our actual logo, but since you can't really produce gradient, it's just going to be that gray.
Okay.
Can't possibly literally turn the corner with,
What do you mean?
you've got it on the corner.
Yeah, I mean, it was just,
Put it,
it's taking 2 months to get this up. Me putting a new light box up probably be a year, so I'm not gonna. I see what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense. Actually make it like
yeah.
angled, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's submitted today and next year it'll be ready. It'll look good though.
You can always come back later.
No, trust me. No offense, everyone seems nice, but do not want to be in this room again.
And the HALRB installed the sign, or they approved the install of the original sign in 2016. So
Yeah.
Any other questions?
For me, I mean, I think it seems pretty straightforward. I mean, it's going in the existing sign box. It's kind of similar. I mean, we don't do color anyway, but it's kind of similar. Similar effect to the previous sign that was
The Rebellion one.
black and white.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, the cool part, you can't tell from here, but when it's actually lit, where Cornerstone's written, that's clear. So the actual cornerstone will pop out and
okay,
look pretty cool
okay.
in theory.
This is in terms of Columbia Pike, this is an unusual intersection in you've got basically 3 historic structures
Correct.
and a gas station.
Yeah.
On the corner.
What's the third?
Yours,
Draft house.
the
Cornerstone.
draft house and the building across the street from the draft house. Which
Yeah,
is.
The Elks.
Plus,
Frame shop.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
I had no
this is a
idea.
pretty significant
Yeah.
piece of historic context.
The draft house stuff, that's,
Yeah.
can't touch anything.
Do you all think this could go on consent?
I think so.
Yeah, okay, all right. So Pete, I will follow up with an email, but basically they put it on the consent agenda. So at the beginning of the HALRB meeting, it'll be voted and blocked with the other consent agenda items at
Okay.
the start of the meeting. But
It's on the 15th, right?
It's on the
Okay.
15th, but I'll send you an email with all the information about how to attend and everything. So you can attend in person again, or you.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, everyone. See you somewhere.
Have to stop by sometime.
I'll be, going back and forth.
See your new sign.
Oh, yeah, with the sign on.
Doing the silence, yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you. Okay, and Leslie, please join us at the table. So these are our next applicants. Why don't you all introduce yourselves and we can start with that.
Ben, I'm the agent, designer. He built 3 structure of the existing roof that kind of collapsed when the storm hit. Took out 2/3 of the roof. We're trying to replicate it, but it's almost impossible. The structure that's there. Maybe the wood that was used like that, so. Kind of trying to replicate it with a new way.
I'm Leslie Jewell. I'm the homeowner. I'm a widow and a tree hit my house last year. And I've been fighting the insurance company for more money. So here I am. And you know,
Go back in your house.
it's a long process, but I've been out for 8 months. So I'm really, really excited to get back in my home. I've worked with Ben's partner before and I really like them. So I hope you'll favorably consider getting me back into my house. Yeah. And I am in Maywood and I love the historic. I've redone my windows. I resashed them and I've had people come out to look at things in my house to see if they're historic or not. Because our house is 1915, but could be it's circa, so it could be as old as 1911, 1912. So I love the historic nature of Maywood, but I feel like we don't have an obtrusive change, but that's up to you guys, of course.
You got pictures of it?
Yeah, I'm gonna scroll through and do my best to explain, but please can
Yep.
Leslie jump in if I get
Yeah.
something wrong.
Yeah.
So, yep, this is in Maywood, and so this is the property. So the tree was
Right there.
In the
Yeah.
back.
back here and it hit the back of the house. And so this is one of the houses that had significant storm damage in Maywood. So there were a couple houses that were hit pretty bad and this was one of them. So the proposal there's a couple different elements to it, but the big one is the repairs taking place to the roof. So essentially, you all are going to rebuild the entire roof, right, with a new
Yep.
truss system.
It's the only way to get it to the sheet is structural. The way they built it back then was a timber framing. So basically they used beams that were 3 times as strong as before, 2x6 and stuff like that. But to recreate that is almost impossible with the wood that you have. You would have to raise the building another 3 or 4 feet. So the way we're trying to do it is use a truss system, which basically is 2 lateral beams. One is a horizontal beam on top and one towards the front to pick up the dormer. And what we're gonna do is put the load right down below. So that's how we create the roof in the space that she had before. It's a different way, but it's combining roof truss with the beams to make it work. So we can kind of replicate exactly what we did. So with that, the idea is the bottom heel has to have a kick to that. It doesn't fly away. So that's why you have a knee wall on the bottom.
Mhm.
So we had to raise it a foot, just a foot more to get that to work. Otherwise, it would just collapse basically. So that's why the structure is like that.
Through the rest of the.
Yeah, so you'll see here, actually, I'm gonna zoom in so you can see the differences. So right now, this is what's existing. So this is the measurement now.
Yeah.
And this is what it's going to be. So there's a foot being added into the overall height of the building
Mhm.
to accommodate that truss system. So then the other things that are being added, there's going to be a new dormer added on the west elevation.
Yep.
And they are also proposing to change the roof line of each dormer. So it's hipped right now, but they're wanting to do front gable, correct?
Yes, because the beam has to go to the edge of the wall to carry it down. Because if I was to do that, I couldn't carry the load.
And then,
So the gable is on the front. It's the front elevation.
And then on the two sides too. So that
Right now, we have one.
T is also a reason because the beam has to go all the way through. You can't just stop right in the middle and carry the load. So that's why the other dormer was designed to carry both loads. So it has to be equal.
and there's no dormer being added to the back. So
The back is the same.
The rear elevation is the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
And then in the gable end and the drawings, I just want to be sure, is the proposal to put vinyl siding in?
Yeah, we're
the
replicating
gable
exact
end?
same
Okay,
way it is.
okay. So the vinyl siding was added to the house in 1978. So it was added,
Oh, really?
yeah.
I didn't know when.
Yeah, I can share the
Thank you.
house card with you, because it's the old permitting system, and so I know exactly when vinyl siding went in, so.
Yeah, we don't have wood house, like so many houses repaint and have
Yeah.
wood and make wood.
Yeah, yeah, and the vinyl was put in before Maywood was a local historic district, because that was in the 90s. So the vinyl came before the historic district did, and so most houses, like you're saying, don't have vinyl for that reason. But Leslie's houses wanted to do that.
78. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I actually like the vinyl color, believe it or not.
Did you peek underneath? Do you have the wood siding?
No,
There's
when there was
something.
damage, there was hints of what it was, but
I don't think it's
Very
intact.
Okay.
it's basically gone. I don't think wood would last
We
that
did
long.
find- when
since
we
1911.
We had came here, that's when I saw you guys before. I had a new replacement roof put on when we first bought the house, and we found the really old shingles underneath, the old coppery ones.
Oh, wow.
But we had already gotten a permit for the replacement, as you know, if you're replacing in kind. So, but it killed us as we were taking off. We found these beautiful old,
What it had been.
which had, and it wasn't complete again, it was like partial, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they weren't in good shape,
Yeah.
so anyway.
So then the roofing material is going to be the same thing. So is what's existing now, is it architectural asphalt shingle or? is it-
Architectural dimensional thing.
I just want to note it for.
I had that permitted like since we bought the house, because we replaced like in 2010 or something.
Okay, no, that's good. I wanted to make sure whatever was being put on was the same again. Okay, so then the other changes, aside from the roof,
Before you go, can I ask a question?
Mhm.
I see that and understand that you're, okay, that helps.
Yeah.
so that's.
So the-
That's the front.
That's the front. So the front is gonna, and the existing front was not a gable,
It's below.
right?
It's this one.
It's like a
There
hip.
was-
Okay.
It's a hip.
Okay, so I think that it is a change to the front elevation, but it's probably looks better than.
We
In
try to
some
make,
respects.
we try to make it look symmetrical and make it look nicer. Everything we
I
do
really
is-
liked what it looked like.
Trying to design things better than it was. That's the whole idea. But we try to keep the same look. I mean, it's only certain things you could do, and this was a creative way to approach it because structurally, we're trying to keep the same form, same pitch and everything.
Yeah.
But just that one foot made a difference to make it work. Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
Right.
I found a neighbor that raised her roof. It's a house on Fillmore.
Okay.
Fillmore in 20, I had coffee with her yesterday and she reminded me that I'll have to get her address for you. It's at the corner of Fillmore and 23rd. And she has a house from the 20s and she had to come for authorization because they did the same thing with their attic elevation. They have a house in Maywood where they wanted attic height and they came to you guys for it's the Bender Prouty family on Fillmore Street in my neighborhood. Yeah. You were asking me about that and I didn't know, but yeah.
So then, excuse me, the other two changes to talk about, and then we can see what other questions we might have, is the replacement of the windows in the dormers. So right now they're casement vinyl windows, and they are proposing to install casement aluminum clad windows with STLs.
So that gives it a little bit more stated value too, but it looks the same. And the inside's wood. So basically, it's the same look, but
It's aluminum clad.
yeah, so it's just like a white, it's white right now, so. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference if you put it.
Yeah.
Right there. So right now, it's kind of like that on top. And then the bottom, all we do is making it a French open. So that's in case fire or something like that, there's a way to get out.
And that's a code requirement.
That's a code requirement. Otherwise, you have to have a ladder and then you have a way. So it's more of a safety.
Yeah.
But the look is the same. You can't tell.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully you can't tell because it's part of like,
So then the other element of the project that they're coming forward with is to replace the door system on the front of the house. So I did a little digging on this one too. And I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, but based on, because I think this might have been prior to your ownership of the house that this change was made. But essentially the house used to have this like little vestibule opening on the front of the porch, which had been screened in at some point. And they applied, gosh, 2008 to redesign the front of the house. And so the door that's on the front of the house now, so I'll come back to this, but I want to show you a photo. So it'll be a lot easier to describe. So so this is what the front of the house looks like now. And what used to be there was this like little shed vestibule that had a different door.
Little overhang thing.
Exactly. Yes. And so what they applied for was to get rid of that and the door that was there and to bring this door, which had been on the inner part of the house, to the front. And so,
Because this area in the front used to be the porch where the Halloween
Yes.
decorations are.
yeah,
So that was filled in.
exactly. So I think that also might have taken place in 78. I'd have to go back and look, but they filled in the screened in porch.
And they moved the door to the
They
front.
moved the door to the front and they got approval for that in 2008. And so the door that's there now is definitely old. I can't verify quite yet as to whether or not it is an original door to the house, but there's a photograph in a file that I will include in the presentation for the HALRB that matches this outline pretty exactly. So I wanted to toss that out there because I think it adds a little bit more context to the door change, because what's essentially being proposed is to replicate the entire doorway system exactly the same. So
that's the hard part, find a vendor that does that. I found one in Pennsylvania.
But the reason you want to do that is, can you explain why?
The reason why I want to do that is there's a couple things that with this door. This door was built, but it was never built to a standard that's insulated. And the seals in there leak, and basically you get draft all year long. So in order to replicate this door, basically it's an Amish company out in Pennsylvania that this is all they do. Vintage millwork. And they replicate doors that, this door actually I found, when I looked it up, it's since 1911. So 1911, when this door was built, so we're replicating the bevel edge glass. Some of the motif that we have in there, there's two options. We can either move it, try to salvage it, or we're gonna try to replicate it, what's there. And then the stuff that they added, the molding, you see the white molding wasn't original to it, but we'll replicate it to match what's there now. So if you look at that image, this is the actual dimension of the doors and from all the insides to everything. So when we send it to the millwork, they're gonna do two things. They're gonna come out and verify it in the first place, but I just drew an example of how the door is. It's a kind of an unusual size at 2 feet 10. So you can't even get that at the hardware store anyways. So, and then the wood they used back when was like an oak wood, but since it's plain and black, I guess you can use whatever wood, but we're gonna try to use the same wood. So the inside outside is gonna be the value with this thing. So it took a little research to find a company that could do it, but you can do it. Yeah. So
What measures have taken place to try to help with the sealing of the door as it is now?
So we had a handyman come every year and put a new stopper seal on the bottom. But when they moved the door and changed, they gave us a deadbolt as the only ability to lock the door. The decorative handle is the antique handle, and that's mounted on a piece of like plywood that we just mounted to it. And then there's just draft holes from where the old keyhole was. And there's a piece of plywood on top of the door. So it's awkward. We get lots of air through where the little key, where when you put the key in on the old deadbolt and it went into the door jamb, it's like tons of air comes right through there. So it's the way that the old door was kind of fixed to fit into this space.
Okay.
We've had lots of people come out to look at it and they're like, the way that they've kind of put it in, you're always gonna have that draft issue. And also it just doesn't seem safe with the current lock system. It's really easy to push. My stepfather's been really worried about me in the house with just that as the lock. So between the draft and the lock, I said, well, we're here for the roof issue. So let's talk about the door that's always been on my radar.
the hardware we're gonna take off.
We use it's really
and mount
pretty.
it on like this.
Yeah, it's pretty
Just to
hardware.
replicate what was there. The deadbolt, we're actually gonna make that the lock now. And we're probably gonna be a similar deadbolt, but
I want to see if I have a close.
yeah, I did take some pictures.
There we
Right
go.
there.
Oh, yeah.
So
So
we're
I
gonna
like
pull
that.
that off.
So you can get air comes right through that keyhole.
They've had a jury rig, whatever they did over there.
And then
back in the days.
I painted that plywood. When we moved in, it was a brown piece of plywood, something there. And I painted it black when I got permission to paint my door. So anyway, that's the,
What helped
That used to be a piece of
identify,
wood.
actually, the door is that hardware.
Oh, yeah,
You can identify that hardware by the date and stuff like that.
yeah.
I found all the old keys in the basement. Isn't that funny? Isn't it funny to buy an old house and you're like, okay, which door does this go to?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, nice.
But I like the style and it goes with the house. And I'm gonna try to replicate it, but just have it be safe and not drafty.
Yeah, sure. Just,
I would suggest if you're able to reuse the decorative trim.
that's what we're.
Yeah.
That's
rather
what we
than-
talked about.
That's the first part of it.
Yeah.
Besides salvage that part, otherwise they're gonna They have a mill and a jig, they have really old jigs that have these moldings.
Yeah.
So it's the only firm that they can make their own jig. So they can basically take the mold, basically somehow they jig it and they make the metal jig. That's why it's hard to find somebody that can do that, especially
Yeah.
historic. I used to deal a lot with Old Town Alexandria. So I used to do the pilasters and all that and replicate the whole thing, taking off the column
Yeah.
and then put it back, we make it out of fiberglass, but nobody knew the difference when we finished it. So we did a lot. So,
Andy, did you have a question? You wanted me to go back to something?
Well, yes, if we could go back to the elevations, particularly the front elevation.
Yeah.
Uh, You know, I think that it is a change to the front elevation as well as the side elevations. And it's front elevation actually trying to preserve, but it would seem to me that it would be, I think what you've done here is correct. I understand why you made the side dormers into cable dormers instead of hip.
yeah,
And to change them on the sides and not do it on the front, kind of downgrade. If anything, you would probably have reversed that. Probably would have had a gable on the front and possibly hipped dormers on the sides. And to do that, what you're doing for structural reasons, it makes sense to me to not give the front a gable as opposed to a roof. I think it would then look odd. It complicates things, I think, in terms of recommendation. I think we should probably recommend it for consent, but you might want to put some comment that if they want to look at the elevations, they could. I think the DRC would recommend consent, but it is changing
Yeah.
the
No,
front facade.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah. I think it all makes sense. I think that's, I think it's all logical. And I think
Yeah.
it makes sense. That said, like Andy said, it is changing like the front facade of something. I think that, I mean, to make it was put off consent, but I think it's probably better to have this discussion about it and sort of get the entire board sort of stamp on it. So
Mhm.
I'd rather put it on discussion.
Is that your main concern than the front dormer as opposed to anything else that's being proposed?
Or just like the front
Well,
facade changes?
A new dormer, is that the?
No, I think what they're, so because there's the addition of the new dormer and then the changing of the height and then the changing of the roof line, that from the street, the house will look different. So that's what they, I think.
It's nothing objectionable. It's just that it's going to change. And so,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
I mean,
I mean, we try to keep the
Yeah.
most of the element the same, but it is what the structure allows us to do.
yeah.
And
no,
technically,
yeah.
I've tried a million ways to do hips and stuff like that. It's not gonna work
Yeah.
without getting the space inside because you have columns running
Yeah.
and stuff like that that just doesn't work with the flow.
I guess I could say I'd recommend it
For approval,
for approval. I think the board would serve a useful purpose, to bring it to the board's attention.
Yeah.
Just because I think there's a reality here in terms of tree falling on the roof and having to try and replace it. Whatever.
I tried to make it, I tried to
Right,
with the hip, and I tried
Right,
every way to do it, but
I think that this is a good solution, and I think it's
Yeah.
appropriate. that the board ought to know that sometimes you can
Can't replicate what's there. but-
replicate.
Yeah, exactly.
it's impossible to
Yeah.
get the wood that was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was one option to try to repair with the wood that was there. Can't.
No, you can't.
And were there, just out of curiosity, were there code restrictions too?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that, with code, you need a certain amount of insulation and things too. So if you had shortened it, you wouldn't be able to use that. You wouldn't have to come down to 18 inches to fit the insulation there. And basically, you just have a storage space for it, it wasn't a living space.
Right, yeah.
So that's not really,
You could
I don't want to raise it up another 4 feet, that'd be a big change.
you could probably, you know, use the insulation depth by going with rigid insulation.
Yes, you could do that too. The problem is the way it's constructed. When you have the vents, because it has a 2-foot vent, when you go rigid, what happens is it compresses that and pulling it from the top, since the roof is a certain way, you can't really pull out the air.
Mhm.
So it'll be sweaty up there all the time. So
Okay.
that's not good. You don't want a human. So
Yeah.
I thought of,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm an architect, but I'm trying to be very creative in what I try to do, but there's certain limitations that I can do. But I try to enhance this. Actually, I think it will look like a nice.
Well,
symmetrical
I think it
thing.
definitely.
Because it gives it a little bit more symmetry.
Yeah.
It gives it a little bit,
The big force.
yeah, it just makes sense, the way it's built.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's like if you look at Louis Kahn's work and stuff like that, and how he tried to make those pyramid shape.
yeah.
It's the same way you kind of look at architecture.
I think, like I said, yeah, I think nothing objectionable at all about it, but I think just like any, said, be good for the board.
Yeah, and it's a good idea to just get their opinion. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's a learning, everything is a learning curve here. And we all learn from,
Yeah,
But it is, and that, you know, we've board and the DRC have looked at more of the front elevation facade, street view
yeah.
is the most important.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that in this case, modifying it, if you didn't modify it so that the front gable matches the side
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
gables,
it looks
It's
like
gonna look-
somebody,
it's gonna look
somebody
like-
didn't know what they're doing.
why did they do that? Because, you know,
Yeah,
the gable belongs on the front. If
exactly.
you're gonna do,
Yeah, you have to kind of match, otherwise it's gonna look awkward.
yeah.
You want to throw something like,
you know,
do a hip here.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have it on discussion, but with DRC recommending it for approval. So I will follow up with an email to
Sounds good.
explain the next steps, but the meeting is May 15th.
Okay.
You can come in person again, or you can come virtually, whatever works for you all. And it'll be very similar conversation, but I will give a staff presentation that
Sounds good.
does an overview of the project.
Sounds great.
Do you want me to email you the address from my neighbor who raised her
That
roof?
would be great, because I will
Yeah.
pull other examples
Okay.
and Maywood for the stuff.
Yeah,
That was
I'll
it.
send you her address.
Yeah, that would.
But I think she did it 20 years ago, but she said she did come to the board.
Yeah, we have records that go way, way, way.
Yeah.
back, so.
She said she remembers coming because she was
Yeah.
breastfeeding her baby.
Yeah.
Now her baby's in college.
Town Alexandria is. The 1700s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy when I went to the. Yeah, record that, unbelievable how to get this stuff, drawings.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was on linen.
Thank you for helping us.
You never see it anymore.
Thank you both for coming to. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Really appreciate
Get it elsewhere.
it. I really appreciate your help.
Of
Thank
course,
you for
yeah.
listening and considering.
Thank you so much.
More business, huh? Okay.
Thank you both so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. See you in 2 weeks.
So we have our last agenda item, and this is for the Green Valley Pharmacy. It's a small amendment to their project. So actually, Mr. Maharme, are you on the line? I believe you might be. Or anybody representing the Green Valley Pharmacy project? I'm not sure. They said that they were going to attend, so maybe they got caught up in something, but I'll do my best to explain it. So previously, they had come forward for the approval of 3 bioretention planter boxes. You might recall that that was in, I think it was June of last year. And since then, they've been doing a lot of permitting and coordinating with other county offices that have led to some changes with the hardscaping plans for the pharmacy. There are no changes to the walk-in cooler, and there are no changes to the previously approved pergola, which is this over here. So these are all remaining exactly the same with what was previously approved by the HALRB. The only thing changing is that rather than having 3 bioretention planters, they are going to have just the 1. And so I'm gonna zoom in so you can see dimensions. It's a little hard to see otherwise. So, so if you've been to the site before, this is where the historic marker is. So it's going to be like right at that corner part of the building. So this is the original main entrance to the pharmacy. And then they'll have the pergola seating over here and then parking all along the other side.
And the bush or tree, is that a full bush or trees that are planted in the ground?
I think it's
Oh,
this right here is what you're talking
Definitely
about.
not a tree.
Yeah,
Let me see. They've got a key on this one. Ah. It was labeled. I know it's. Okay, let me see. It's down here. Street trees, 7 each. So they're gonna have a street tree right here.
And so they're
And
going
then
from,
one there.
But
Yeah.
the others, 24th and that,
Nope, those are all street trees. All of these bush
okay,
like things are street trees
Okay.
that they're.
that's the size they're going in.
Yeah.
Okay.
so they're going from 3 planter boxes to 1.
So just one.
and the planter boxes, it's just like how tall is it?
That was also one of my questions, and I wish that they were here. But I will ask them to get that dimension. The last ones were at grade, I'm pretty sure. So it might be something similar, but I would need to confirm with them.
Right.
I just know that in our recommendation, we had said it wouldn't have a visual impact because
Yeah.
it wasn't
Right.
tall enough to have a visual impact.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was my only sort of, that was my initial sort of thought about that, that it is, gonna be, 2 feet tall. I mean, at the front, it's kind of, it impacts how you sort of take in the building and.
Well, it does, plus there's also the proposed sidewalk with the handicap accessible ramps. I don't think there's enough room at the top of the ramp in the planter box and the code ones in terms of the Americans with Disabilities. So I think there might be some question there about
Yeah, that's.
I need to give them a hard time on this, but I think this is all new construction. I think it ought to comply with. If you want to check that,
We
I don't
can
know what
ask.
the dimension is there, but it's like it's somewhere 3 feet. And that's
We can
that's not
ask.
adequate.
We can ask.
And Andy, just so I'm clear, you're talking about like this section, right?
Right here.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right there. This distance here.
Yeah,
Okay, I got you. So you'd come up here and the turn to go
Yeah,
that
you-
direction would be difficult.
yeah, you think there'd be more space there. Maybe that's, yeah, I would,
I'm not sure why they're putting this. Putting the ramp.
but the
Yeah.
ramps are, but those are existing though, right? The two sidewalk
I
ramps.
don't know if like these are where the crosswalks definitely are. I'd have to go back. Let me see, actually, I think.
Do you have a
we don't-
picture?
I don't have a photo.
We can look at the.
We can look at the earlier approval. I mean, all of that is being reviewed by the appropriate entities in the county to take a look at that with the permit review for it. But this is, I do know from doing inspections here that this is a crosswalk here, and then this is a crosswalk over here too. So, I just can't remember off the top of my head if they have existing ramps. I would assume they do.
And did they, I mean, they had to change from the approved to this because of the comments from, I guess, a DS or somebody.
I think so. I'm not entirely sure why they had to change it, but I think based off of review from other entities, they had a lot of changes they had to make to the hardscaping, and stormwater requirements and things like that. So, or maybe it was requirements with street trees. I think that might have been part of it, was the placement of trees and where tree root systems are going to actually be allowed to grow. So.
So what are you thinking?
I think it should go on discussion because we need to know at least how tall it is. I mean,
Okay.
and I'm not crazy about it being like in the front bit, that'll be in the front. I mean, but I mean, like, can I kind of hear their explanation for why it's there, but I'm not, I'm not. It kind of needs to be there in terms of for some logical design reasons. I'm not gonna fight that, but I mean, I would rather see it be somewhere else. So
Okay.
just for that, I would.
Is that going to be the location also for the sign? This would,
The marker,
yes.
yeah, it's already there.
So,
Yeah.
so it's, is this marker?
Oh, no,
That little
it's,
info PED.
yeah, here, I'll zoom in. So it's like, I think they're trying to say information pedestal or something, but it's basically where this box is, right here.
Yes.
Oh, okay, it's in front of.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's like part of the sidewalk system, that's there now. And then this is the signal pole. Discussion. Right, and we still, no changes.
The alternative, I guess, is to recommend approval. Send the note.
If we were to verify the height,
Verify the-
rationale for the-
Yes, that's,
Yeah, I mean, if we get more information about why it's there in the height, I mean, I'd be willing to consider it. And put it on consent maybe then, but based on what we know now, I mean.
Okay,
That's, yeah.
so what would, just so that I we might not be able to determine this, but I want to get a better sense of what you all feel would be an appropriate height so that if they tell me something, I'll be able to determine whether or not you all would feel it's appropriate.
I mean, if it was, I guess it was like I suppose it was the height of, I mean, obviously ideally it wouldn't be, zero height, but I guess if it was, the height of those little tree boxes are like, what, maybe 8 to 12 inches tall. I mean, I guess it's, anything taller than that. I think
Okay.
like 3 foot tall punter box there. I think. Yeah. That's my.
Okay, Andy, do you agree with the 8 to 12 as like
Yeah,
it can't exceed?
I think 12 inches is probably okay, but what I'm concerned about really is that somebody, a code review, review this, because I think it'd be rather embarrassing to the county to let this go through and be a violation.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I really, I mean, I think
Outside our purview, but I agree with Danny. Just if they've signed up on it, it's okay. I mean, that's great, but it doesn't look like it's. It's like it is. Maybe it is.
I'll try to figure out.
how much of it has been built? As a site.
Nothing's been built.
So,
They're still
so
going.
they can
through-
change. I think that's.
Yeah, they're still going through the permitting process, and so I'll try to figure out who the reviewer would be for that particular element and just see, because the permit's actually, I believe, going under review right now, and so I should be able to touch base with somebody who's seen the latest iteration of this and try to get more answers.
Yeah, if it's if that's what's existing right now, and obviously it's kind of grandfathered.
Okay, so if it is acceptable per county standards for accessibility, and if it's an appropriate height not exceeding 8 to 12 inches tall, then you all would be okay with it going on the consent agenda? Andy, is that
Yeah,
agreeable? Okay.
but I'm just concerned that somebody in the county reviews this. It looks to me like it's really too close.
Yeah, and there are a lot of reviewers on this project, so someone's definitely looking for that.
If you could just also pass on, say, specifically, take a look, review this, just graphs.
Okay.
And the distance, how close that planter box is. I don't see why the planter box has to be out that close. I can see them putting the sign, the interpretive sign, whatever. You could certainly fit that into a slightly different. It's really an odd shape. It's just, I mean, it's.
I mean, if you all want to
Okay.
stay on discussion, that's perfectly fine too, to have them come to the meeting and explain a little bit more of its shape, its location, why it's there. I'm sure that it has to do with, it is a smaller lot that they're working with, and with the pergola for outdoor seating, there probably wouldn't be any room here.
Sure.
This is the existing like gravel driveway that they've got right now, but they're going to pave it, and then past a certain point, this isn't under our purview because it's on the neighboring lot that is not in the local historic district. So I'm not sure that there is another location where they could put a
Well,
planter box, but
quite frankly, I think there is. So, I mean, the one thing about this particular building is the clip corner. And if you try to pick up that somehow with that same angle, I think it would be a little bit more respect of the building, whatever, pick up on that it wouldn't, this just doesn't seem to, it just seems like an arbitrary shape. The design wise, I just don't.
Yeah, let's put a number.
Okay. I'll still try to get answers to those two questions, but we'll leave it on discussion regardless of what the answer is. Okay. All right, and that is our agenda.
You.
All right, thank you to everyone who attended virtually. We appreciate it.
Anybody attend virtually?
Not from DRC, but from the public.
Okay.